Let's go to the region with MS Now contributor Inzamam Rashid in Dubai, plus our military analyst, General Barry McCaffrey, and former Arab-Israeli negotiator, Aaron David Miller of the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Inzamam, it has been another 24 hours of mixed messages from the U.S., Iran, and Pakistan regarding negotiations. Where do things stand right now?
Yeah, there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of rhetoric, but behind the scenes, there is a lot of diplomacy as well. And I think that's a positive sign. Look, currently we're in a situation where President Trump has yet dealt another ultimatum. He said to Iran, come to the table with this proposal that we have given you, or else we will bomb you once again, and at levels a lot higher than previously. Iran is now currently reviewing this US proposal that was handed to them. And it's my understanding from Pakistanis today that Iran will give some form of response to that proposal if they haven't done so already. Well, what's inside this is something we discussed yesterday, Anna, but some more details have been emerging as a result of what's inside this proposal that the US has put forward. And a lot of it is actually around Iran's nuclear program. There's some very kind of specific details in there around whether Iran can or cannot enrich uranium, whether the US actually takes control of that uranium as well. But then there's the whole crux of this proposal is that this conflict ends within the next 30 days, that they come to some form of conclusive ending to the war, and that the Strait of Hormuz fully opens, that Iran's sanctions that have been put on them by the US are unfrozen. But if the ceasefire is broken within the next 30 days, or there is no negotiation essentially between the two countries, then the US will carry out their aggression and continue their blockade in the Strait of Hormuz. So currently, the ball is now back in Iran's court. They have got the ball there to try and make the decision essentially, and what their response will be to this US proposal. I don't think that they will fully comply and agree with what the US has put on the table. They'll go back with their own options. And I think we're kind of in this bit of a state of abeyance right now, where the back and forth continues, and actually getting the two sides in the room together to have the discussions is the key goal. But it's looking very difficult in terms of getting there.
Meantime, nothing's really getting through the Strait of Hormuz. General McCaffrey, according to the Pentagon, more than 22,000 mariners are stranded on more than 1,500 commercial ships in the Persian Gulf right now. Will anything short of a comprehensive peace deal get that traffic moving?
Probably not. Both Mr. Trump and the Iranians have enormous economic and military arguments why they should stop fighting. I think the Iranians probably can't keep it up more than 60 to 90 days with a U.S. counter blockade. They're going to run out of money to pay the IRGC, among other things. And I think Mr. Trump's watching both his political and economic fortunes being grievously affected by this. That Operation Freedom was a test to see if the Iranians would blink and allow us to use minimal U.S. naval assets to break the Iranian blockade. It didn't work. That was a contested passage. Those were two destroyers with enormously courageous U.S. sailors, tremendous technology. It was an air-sea operation. They destroyed 6 Iranian fast boats. They managed to protect themselves from cruise missiles that were fired at them. But obviously, it will not allow us to unblock the Straits of Hormuz using a naval power. No naval ship should be in combat in the Persian Gulf in shallow waters, subject to air, sea, and mine attack. So what next? I think at the end of the day, both sides have to come to an agreement pretty rapidly. The patience of the American people is running out. The allies are outraged. Saudi Arabia apparently reacted very unfavorably to Operation Freedom, along with other Persian Gulf states. So Trump's stuck. He's got to go to diplomacy to get us out of this situation.
Israel launched strikes on Beirut's southern suburbs for the first time since the ceasefire with Lebanon. And I want to go back to you, Inzamam. What more are we learning about this? Obviously, that's a fragile ceasefire, and it's connected to the broader ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a far push to call it a fragile ceasefire now, Anna, given that every single day since it was implemented, it's been broken by both sides, by the Israelis in particular, and also by Hezbollah inside of Lebanon. Those two entities have been fighting every single day. And over the last 24 hours, we saw Israel really ramp up their war inside of Lebanon. They specifically targeted the capital, Beirut, and killed more than 13 people, it's believed. That's what the health ministry inside Lebanon have said. They targeted neighborhoods, they targeted residential buildings, and as a result, more than 13 people have been killed. And then just in the last few hours as well, they've actually put out a further warning, dropping leaflets across some suburbs inside of Lebanon, telling people to evacuate from their homes because they will continue with their bombing. They say that they're targeting Hezbollah sites, and they're doing it as a result of Hezbollah initially breaking the ceasefire, but clearly very much so in that country which has been battered for many years now. The fighting very much continues, and as you mentioned, it's separate to the other ceasefire that's going on the war in Iran. But what will be important is if the two sides do get to the negotiation table, Anna, the US and Iran, then Lebanon is very much on the agenda. Iran have always said that any conclusive ending to this conflict has to also include Lebanon. Right now, Israel is using Lebanon really as their fighting zone throughout this war, since they can't target Iran, and the fighting very much is continuing there. So it will very much have to be part of a negotiation deal if we get that in the coming days, Anna.
General, roughly 400 people have been killed in Lebanon since the ceasefire. Israel has also killed more than 700 people in Gaza since that ceasefire was implemented, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry, and maintains a large offensive presence militarily in both of these locations. I just wonder, historically, is it normal to see this many deaths in the hundreds so far into a ceasefire?
Well, you know, at the end of the day, how wars end is clearly more consequential of how they began. And at the end of the day, Iran, despite having been hit by 13,000 attacks from the U.S. Air power and Army HIMARS rockets and Navy ships, at the end of the day, Iran still has surrogate forces that are unreconciled and still a threat to both Israel and the United States' interests, with no clear end to it in sight. At some point, I assume there'll be some kind of a universal ceasefire. The Iranians have got to lift the economic blockade. 98% of their oil goes out to the Strait of Hormuz. They're scrambling to find other ways to do it. They're not going to be able to survive probably beyond 90 days. So we got to get a ceasefire. But I think got to add one comment. President Trump's public utterances of threats and blood-curdling, findings on attacking Iran are killing his negotiators. You can't threaten people in public. You can't demean them. You can't call for, surrender and call for the U.S. selecting the next Iranian leadership without harming your own ability to end the war. So they've got to reset the game here and get the war stopped.
Yeah, I'm hearing you say that there has to be a way for Iran to save face, and by just continuing to give no inch to Iran publicly, that makes it difficult to find some common ground. Barry McCaffrey, General, thank you. And Zaman Rashid, appreciate your ongoing tireless reporting. You're doing great work out there, my friend.